All right, so my name is Alex Wafula. I'm one of the moderators here with the Black Blockchain Summit. Um, for today's topic for our baraza is enhancing Black property rights. So I'll just have everyone on the call introduce themselves before we get started. Maybe we can start with you, Vernon.
Okay. What's going on, guys? It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Vernon J. I'm the CEO over at Equity Platforms. I'm a real estate guy. I 20 years in the business, $200 million in transactions. It's been a beautiful ride. And with Equity Platforms in 2021, we created the first digital token backed by affordable housing, backed by government affordable housing. We have, as of yesterday, we just closed on uh, our newest acquisition. So that brings us to $4 million in assets under management for the company. And essentially, we combine crowdfunding and tokenization in order to create transparency, easy dividend sharing, keeping track of the ledgers. I mean, it's like night and day when you're dealing with the real estate space and using blockchain technology. So I'm excited to be here, talk a little bit about how we're going to create more rights using blockchain, and I'm hyped up. Let's go.
All right, thank you for that, Vernon. Up next, maybe we can have Bio introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bayo Kazania. I'm the CEO and founder of NPC Labs. NPC Labs, what we do is we create tokenized goods. So these are goods that are represented and attached to a digital asset on chain. We're helping not just Web3 brands and creators with IP, but also Web2 companies transition into Web3 by tokenizing and embedding Web3 into their product distribution and supply chain. We do everything from not just sourcing and manufacturing, and then embedding this NFC chip or RFID tag into the product in order to link it to a digital asset that serves as a certificate of authenticity. But we also do the fulfillment as well. We have a partner here in New Jersey with 10,000 square feet of warehousing space for us to inventory items and ship. And they also do courier services in 18 US states. We ship both domestic and internationally. And we're also chain agnostic. So we allow our customer client to deploy their token that represents this physical asset onto any chain. But we have a core interest in EVM chains because they have the biggest digital asset ecosystems, to our knowledge. But we are also compatible with Solana, Arbitrum. We're building for Binance and others. So yeah, that's a little bit on us. We're also an international and distributed team. So I have team members in Nigeria, India. Our suppliers are distributed. We and most of them have experience working with some of the best brands in the world, like Amazon, Urban Outfitters, Foot Locker, Adidas, and others.
All right, thank you for that, Bio. Nice to have you on this panel. Up next, we can have Drew introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, everyone. Drew Hubbard coming to you from Washington, D.C. I may be kind of the odd man out on this panel, but hopefully can still provide some good perspective. I'm a lawyer by training, and I've been in the district government here for actually at this point 20 years, with a mix of both policy and programmatic experience, really around affordable housing and workforce development. I've served in two cabinet level positions for our mayor, currently running our Workforce Investment Council here, but have spent many years both on the policy side and actually as the lead of one of our housing finance agencies here in Washington, D.C. So excited to talk about how this all relates to my passion, which really is how we put policy in place that really help low and moderate income folks really function in this society and gain more as we look to get them resources.
All right. Thank you for that. And finally, I guess we can have Kamari.
Good afternoon, everybody. Kamari Ellis here. I'm from Philly. I'm kind of like the hot man now too. I'm a tax accountant, over 35 years of tax and financial services experience, and just here to learn and maybe contribute a little bit. But thank you for having me. Oh, also, if you ever see me go off camera, I got a summer cold, so I'm trying not to cough in y'all face.
All right. Nice to have you, Kamari. All right, so I think first, I'd like to get your thoughts on some of the current challenges you think Black communities face regarding property rights and how blockchain technology specifically can be used to address some of these issues. So again, maybe we can start with Vernon on this question.
For sure. So listen, I've been in the real estate space for 20 years, right? And I've seen some things, right? And I would say the two major things that I've seen is that it's when I bring affordable housing projects to, my high net worth individuals, it's exponentially harder for those deals to pencil, right? Than your straight up the fairway properties. And I think that's fundamentally wrong. Also, I noticed that, in communities of color, you've got a small minority of people or organizations or families that own the majority of assets. There's almost zero democratization in our communities around the country. So I think that's fundamentally wrong as well. And this is why we created Equity, right? Because we wanted a way to create fractional ownership so that people who live in their communities, if there's a big development happening, for example, there's a $250 million development that we are part of in Brooklyn, New York, where we've partnered with the developer to make sure that the community can have $5 million of that $250 million development and be able to invest alongside these projects. Because the thing is, before Obama started with the Jobs Act, before crowdfunding, which created crowdfunding, and then before tokenization gave us the ability to actually have a transparent, trustless way to communicate with one another, all of this was impossible, right? It was impossible for you as a non-accredited investor. And I know we might get into the weeds, but non-accredited investor, 92% of America are non-accredited investors, are non-accredited. And that means that they're making less than $250,000 a year. They don't have a net worth of $1 million, not including their primary residence. So this whole new dynamic of being able to use blockchain technology to fractionalize the ownership so that you can, no matter if you're an investor in a small enterprise, like I consider my enterprise small, where we just got a valuation of our whole company at 9.6 million. So it's pretty small compared to, the big companies. But because we're not on the NASDAQ, because we're not on the Russell 2000, the Dow, we're not able to essentially fractionalize in a digital way, right? If you invest in a normal company that's worth about 10 million, you're going to get a piece of paper that says you own 10 shares, you own 100, whatever, how many shares you own. But besides that piece of paper, you don't have any kind of tracking of that, right? And then when I'm sending out dividends, we've sent out tens of thousands of dollars in dividends on chain to our investors, to our token holders. We've got 110 token holders, and it's like night and day. It's like email versus snail mail when you're using blockchain technology in the real estate, in the financial part of the real estate equation, right? So I truly believe that as we go into, as we kind of move away from the casino, because I got into the blockchain space in 2016, and right away I saw that, I traveled all over Dubai, Hong Kong, all over the country, trying to figure out, okay, how does real estate and blockchain intersect? And from that moment until now, it's been incredibly clear that blockchain is a revolutionary technology that's disguised as a casino. Right. So I think as we move forward with real world assets, and this conversation is so poignant to that point, I think we're going to see an uptick of people using blockchain technology where they might not even know it is blockchain. And so I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for that, Brandon. You can have Bio pick up from there. What are some of the current challenges that the Black communities face with regards to property, and how can you use blockchain to address those issues?
Yeah, where we focus a lot of our attention on at MPC Labs is on intellectual property. So how do you protect the ideas in your head, but also protect your creative potential? If you look at existing tech platforms like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, it's either they don't reward their creators or they're taking a unfair portion of the revenue. So they're selling ads against your content. If they want to delete your account, it's gone. You've lost all your community members. So what we wanted to do was help them scale the infrastructure to go direct to community and have a relationship with that community off platform. And that's what a wallet address can help you do, essentially. It's your identity and it's independent of any one tech company, and you own it. So the way in which we're helping those type of creators, a lot of them are African, Black American, members of the diaspora around the world, is why don't we give you the same infrastructure that the top 1% of brands and companies have, right? And you're able to go direct to community with your IP, and take that off platform and keep that relationship. A lot of that exists in the form of an NFT. Then NFT is almost like a contract that provides a home for IP. And what we do, we take it to the next level. We actually embed in the metadata of the NFT an actual licensing contract so that people can independently check and verify what sort of ownership they get when they purchase the NFT and what that means in relation to the creator and what you can do with that, whether you have commercial rights or not. And then from there, we take that digital asset, which is a home for the IP, and we can print a product, right, with your permission, right, and help you distribute that product around the world. A lot of the times, people, especially in the content creation space, which Black people thrive. We control culture. We're like walking billboards. You're forced to devalue your own IP. So like streaming, for example, if you look at streaming platforms, you're getting cents on the dollar. If you look at platforms like YouTube, they're taking, at least half of all the ad revenue. Probably way more than that. It's probably closer to 70%. And then what? If they decide to delete your platform or decide to censor you or decide to control how you decide to make your own content. We also, because you're a walking billboard, when you take a brand deal, oftentimes the brand wins. So they're keeping 90% of the revenue, you're keeping 10%. We want to flip that relationship. So give you the infrastructure, right? You keep 90% of your revenue, and you don't need permission. No one can ban you, right? You can sell it, and we'll set up the storefront. So dealing with that intellectual property is also important because there's going to be a resale market for your goods, right? Like, let's say you're Beyonce and someone, who went to your first concert owns one of your concert tees. That thing's valuable today. till this day, right? Especially if you can prove it, right? You can prove it. And we authenticate all our items so from the inception so people know where it came from and who it's licensed from. So when the resale market develops as your brand grows, you're going to be earning perpetual revenue on the resale market of that IP. Whether it's a digital asset or a physical product, it exists on chain. People can track how it trades hands, and you can get a royalty payment every time it trades hands. So that's the sort of infrastructure we want to make accessible to Black content creators, as well as artists, and people who are scaling their own businesses.
All right. Great. Thanks for that. Next, can I ask you the same question?
So I think a lot of the current challenges in this area are really our ongoing challenges that we've faced as Black folks for decades and even centuries, right? If you trace the history of property rights back to the founding of this country, they were used to keep Black people from functioning as full citizens and participating in economic viability of this country. So you couldn't enjoy civil rights or social status without being a property owner. Coming out of slavery, you saw some people, some Black folks being able to acquire land, and then you saw the concerted effort to wrest that land from them, right? So this is a endemic and historic issue that we still fight to this day. And whether it's in law or in practice, we've had both legal processes and practices that have kept Black people from enjoying ownership in many forms in this country, right? We have the legacy of redlining, we have the legacy of racist and other policies that were adopted from the federal government on down to the local level that kept Black people from being able to enjoy property rights. What we see even to this day, and I'll take it back to kind of affordable housing, looking at generational families' ability to stay in the place and enjoy the place that they grew up, were raised in, educated in, is threatened every day based on the market, based on whether the example here in Washington, D.C. over the last 20 years, we went from a place where you almost couldn't pay people to build 20, 25 years ago to one of the hottest markets over the last 2 decades. And you saw the migration out of Native Washingtonians to suburban areas, and you saw the negative effects that happened with that. So even when you're looking at building affordable housing, building commercial space, even in a place in DC where you have Black developers, where you have Black businesses that play in this space, you have some of those fundamental hurdles that still exist: access to capital, being able to get bonded, show past performance, things that folks that have been able to build as quote unquote majority companies because of some of these policies that have kept our folks out for so long. You need very specific and deliberate policies that reverse those looks. You need to, number one, call out the problems and set policy, whether they'll be challenging in court or not, that specifically empower Black folks. One of the examples here, our mayor put in place a Black homeownership task force with the goal of increasing the amount of Black homeowners by 20,000 in the next few years. But that's going to take specific earmarks, specific legislation, policy to get there. And we're going to face headwinds, but you got to meet it head on. There's no way we're going to reverse all the negatives over the last 100+ years by doing the same that we've done. And that's this kind of technology. It's access to all sources of capital, and really getting past, the seat at the table. We need, a booster, a leg up, all that stuff, in the sense that, you can make this argument that, it's unfair, it's reverse racism. No, it's injustice to not right those wrongs that were specifically done to us as a people over really the history of this country.
Drew, I just want to tap in real quick and just kind of piggyback and say, with FDR's New Deal, right? That was a clear like moment in time that changed the trajectory and is why we're where we are today. He subsidized home ownership for white Americans, and then he subsidized rentals for Blacks and Latinos, and that's where the projects came in.
Absolutely.
Right? And what you had is the renter today, the person who owns a property today has a net worth of 45 times that of the renter. So as he gave white people subsidized homes that they lived in, after generations, the wealth gap started to really widen. So I just wanted to drive that point home because you really made some great points.
And there's other examples that go right along with it. Even the GI Bill, where white GIs were empowered over Black GIs coming back from fighting for war, where they could get a college education, they could get loans for homes that Black soldiers who put their lives on the line, just like their white counterparts, couldn't do. They were deliberate policies that we have to do a full 180 and advantage Black communities to really undo that damage that's been endemic.
Yeah, all right. Then I guess kind of up with Kamari. So same question, challenges that Black communities face around property and how we can use blockchain to try and solve those challenges.
So I'm kind of the guy who I like to go back to the basics. Blockchain is very powerful and it's definitely something we can use, should be using. Really proud of everybody on this panel and abroad throughout the diaspora that is using it. But I always say that we got to go back to the basics. We need to have a firm understanding of money and finance and economics, because blockchain can then enhance all those things. But if we don't understand those things, by the way, politics, because everything, was really, I really enjoyed the dialogue between Vernon and Drew just now, right? And everything that they were talking about was some sort of political policy. From FDR to redlining, those were all political, legislative things. But if we don't understand the political process and how this works and how to leverage it, it's really going to be hard to get blockchain up to snuff to where we can use it. And I'm not trying to be a doubting Debbie, but it's really going to be hard to get it up to snuff to use it and leverage it without really understanding the mechanism behind everything and how it works. But again, I want to keep seeing these things, and we have to continue to push this. Learn about FDR's New Deal, right? Learn about redlining, because a lot of people still don't know about redlining, right? And when you really, and I don't want to belabor this, but when you really go into redlining and FDR to a large extent, Black folks, we have hoods, but how were they created? How was this whole street code created? Well, you can kind of look at redlining, and there was white supremacist guidelines that crafted all these things. And I know I'm probably preaching to the choir, but I don't know if people really get how nuanced and diabolical a lot of these things are. So that's what I have to say. Keep educating, get to the basics, and yes, use blockchain as well, but don't forget the basics and the fundamentals.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can just jump on that too. When you look at transportation policy, I think as a group, we all know how even transportation policy added to breaking up Black communities, where you're putting highways through communities and cutting them, actual physical barriers, cutting them off from resources in the places they lived in. To your point, Carmen, I grew up that way where you are too. We see this around the country. In every jurisdiction, and we can't be afraid and be cowed by folks who may think different from us to not call out that history. We can't fall for the trap of CRT or DEI. It's history. They're facts. It happened. Y'all did it to us. You can't sweep it under the rug by saying it makes my kids uncomfortable.
And again, I'm gonna piggyback off you. Many of us have been lulled to sleep to think that bringing up history is somehow living in the past and having a poverty mindset. No other people was taught that or practiced that. When you look at our Jewish brothers and sisters, when we go back to the Holocaust, they say never again. We should be saying the same thing, never again. And we're going to use all these tools and great things to make sure that it's never again.
Yeah, and I think building off what Kamari has been talking about around maybe getting educated around stuff like what redlining is, and like I feel like the Black community is like I guess like how can we move forward in terms of connecting our communities with maybe getting educated around these practices and also like new technology around the blockchain in good time. Like one thing I usually relate with the blockchain is like how when the internet started, like a lot of the people who are at the forefront of kind of adopting this are the people who like 2-3 decades later on really came out to like make it the same with how you just compared the disparity with like getting subsidies of rental houses versus buying a house, and then decades later, years later, like you see who gains at the end. So like, what can we do as maybe experts in this space, in the blockchain community, and even the basics around money, like Kamari was saying, what can we do in terms of educating or getting our Black communities more involved so that they're at an advantage right now for like gains that will happen 20, 30 years from now? Again, maybe just starting with you, Varna.
I'll tap in. So I just want to start out by saying redlining is alive and well, and it's kicking, it's pumping right now.
Yes, it is.
Pumping heavy, right? If you just Google it, you're going to see banks have gotten fined left and right in the last year. I have personally experienced redlining, where some of my properties that we own are in Black neighborhoods. A company that I was just about to refinance with, they said, you know, we're doing loans right now, but we checked the property, and we're being really picky about what properties we're financing. And I called them out. I got to the top of the food chain, and I was this close to suing the crap out of these guys. But I sat back with myself. I said, you know what? Let me put that energy into replacing the bank with community. So to answer your question, it's really making sure that we galvanize each other. And the people who own assets, it's sort of like this. In the UK, in order to become a lord, it's a birthright, right? It's something that you can't really buy to become a lord. In America, the lords are landlords. The lords in America are landlords. So they are the ones who have the credibility, who have the ability to move freely in this country. Remember, when this country first started, it didn't even matter if you were white. If you were white, you couldn't even vote. You had to be a property owner. And I actually looked at those laws, like really saw them verbatim, and it was specifics. You had to own this amount of tenants. You had to have this amount of acreage. So my point in saying all of this is that we in this country, when they first came in, they were looking for land. When slavery ended, what was the first thing people needed? Land. We're in 2024. What do people need? Land. So when we're talking about all these extra things, these are, you know, there's a lot to talk about. But if we're not talking about the ownership of assets, then we're kind of talking noise. We're just yapping, right? So we have to be able to galvanize each other, bring people together, even if they're not going to invest with you, give them the knowledge so that they can invest in themselves. But it's really the fear. I think the fear is what's stopping us from getting to the next level. And if we can see more people who own large assets, who look like us, it starts to change that mindset. And I'll land the plane here because I don't want to take too much of the time. But I had a big argument with a group of people in Pennsylvania recently doing the Kamala campaign, and they were talking about kind of like eat the rich. Eat the rich. These landlords are terrible. And I think I had to sit back and I said, you know what? You're bugging. That's crazy. And then one girl said, well, you're not a billionaire. So what are you talking about? I said, well, I'm not a billionaire, but I am a millionaire. And I am, because I'm a millionaire, that's not the flex. The flex is that I hire Black people. The flex is that Black people live in my buildings. The flex is that in my retail spaces, I'm giving first-time business owners the opportunity to start their businesses. And if we could multiply that thousands of times over, then we're talking about real freaking change.
All right, thanks for that, Vernon. Bio, up next, how do we connect communities with all this knowledge and information so that they are better off in the years to come?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I believe in documenting your journey. I've been creating content online for 7 years, since college, and along the way, I've released ebooks. I've done webinars, and I've pretty much tried my hardest to leave a trail behind that maybe the next generation that's inspired by whatever you're building can follow your blueprint, right? I don't believe in sitting on valuable information. I believe in catch and release. So even today, I try to show up to places where you know, young Black men and Black women are sharing knowledge and share my perspective. I was lucky enough to be educated at an Ivy League institution, and that's a rare network to be part of. I've never shied away from sharing resources, and especially with younger students outside that network, trying to pull them in and give them some exposure. And then, you know, with the company that I'm working on now, it was actually inspired because a lot of the young Black entrepreneurs that I was seeing really wanted to be influencers and be you know, YouTubers. And you know, I said that's good and all, but you know, especially one of my childhood friends, she's an Afrobeat dancer. She's grown 200,000 followers across her platforms. She's danced on Jimmy Fallon, but she was staying on my sister's couch, and I couldn't make sense of it. Um, and here I was, you know, working in VC, trying to invest in some startups and trying to give my friends who are artists some advice on how to protect themselves from all these predatory deals, brand deals, companies trying to take advantage of them, labels trying to take advantage of them. And, you know, after some time, I was just like, enough is enough. I want to build the infrastructure to help them thrive while they're doing this. Like, why do they have to wait till they quote unquote make it before they're actually generating revenue? If you have 100 loyal people, and you have well more than that, that are willing to pay you even $10, $50 here and there per month, you can sustain an income. I think Andreessen had this article I read called "100 True Fans." With just 100 true fans paying you $100 a month, you can make minimum, at least the average medium income for a family in the United States, right? And you just scale that up, you can essentially control your own destiny. The challenge is getting people to stop giving their value for free. And you know, you're giving all this stuff for free. Eventually, you've got to build a social commerce feedback loop where your community is empowering you so that you can continue to empower them. It can't just be give, give, give without, you know, eventually taking what you deserve. So I just try and share that from my perspective, and then leverage the company that I'm building today to, you know, build the infrastructure around these community leaders. They're naturally community leaders. They're energized. They're getting people excited, you know, to follow them and to share their content. You should be able to eat as well.
All right. All right,
Yeah.
thank you for that. Then I think we can wind up with Drew and Kamari. I think because of time, if you could each take maybe about 2 minutes each to answer the question. Same question.
Sure. I think every major movement starts small. A lot of times we want to go and galvanize a million and billion people, but powerful thing starts with, a couple of people, 4 or 5 people here. Then we spread the gospel. Not trying to get religious, but Jesus only had 12 disciples. Changed the world. Same thing with Muhammad. I don't know his exact numbers, but my point is that, we don't need everybody to be believers. We just have to have a core belief of what we understand. And those are facts. Base everything off facts and just go from there. Just show the world that, well, I'm hesitating here, so I'm just going to say it. I mean, we're all Black here, right? The idea of America, an American dream, in my opinion, has always been a lie to a large part. And I believe a lot of us have been duped by that in all its facets. And we see the influencer culture, not pointing at anybody, but we want to become influencers, but influencers of what, right? And, those are the questions I feel we need to start asking. And then we really need to come back and say, who are we really working for? Who are our people? Who is the community? And I'm becoming kind of the old angry Black guy, which I don't want to be, because, sometimes that turns off the young folks, but it's all from love, right? It's like, what are we doing, y'all? Can y'all not see that just by perpetuating consumerism and materialism, that's not helping Black folks? That's helping corporations. And again, that's a whole political ideology that I have that I don't want to bore anybody with, but I'll just say this. This might seem corny, but if we just gather a couple brothers and sisters, show love, be supportive, be Black, real Black, and move from there. And that's all it takes. And I know it's not any rocket formula or anything, but I don't think it's that simple. I just think it takes dedication, a lot of sacrifice, and some hard work.
I got you, Kamari. And then I think we can have Drew close us off.
All right. I think everything all of my colleagues on the panel has been right on point. I'll just add to it and amplify networks. I belong to a social organization here in DC that's been around since the 60s, and all professional Black men. I see so many deals happen within just our group where it's the developer who's getting capital from the banker who's in the organization, who is using a Black architect, who goes to closing with a title company that's Black owned. So using our Black networks. And I think we gotta, again, we said this over the course of the discussion, we can't ignore our history. I think it's worth looking at the time when we were forced to be in a segregated situation where we had to work with each other. And in some ways, you went to the Black doctor, dentist, or lawyer. We have all the resources we need in our community if we recycle those dollars and really commit. And not all skin folks is kin folk, right? So you gotta find people that are really about what's best for us as a people and really embrace them and do business with like-minded people, talk policy with like-minded people, get like-minded people elected from these local positions all the way up to a national platform. And that's what it's going to take to really push us forward.